Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again today for another Hub 101. My name is Imani Moore. I'm the engagement coordinator for the Austin Community Hub. I want to go ahead and start by introducing a little bit about who we are and what it is that we do. The Austin Community Hub was designed to be a space where we can engage with the members of our community. So we're here to serve as a connection between Austin residents and all the services that are offered by ACT's network of partner organizations such as childcare, job training, youth programs, legal assistance, and so much more. Each one of our Hub one-on-ones gives you all an opportunity to get to know our different partners and get live answers to your questions. Hub one-on-ones take place twice a month on Zoom and Facebook Live. Today, we are joined by Mr. Joseph Green, the Director of Workforce and Development at Westside Health Authority, to talk to us about all the great work that they're doing for you guys. We'll end the Q&A session after we'll end with the Q&A session after the presentation. So please don't hesitate. Feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat box on Zoom or in the chat box if you're watching on Facebook Live. And without no further ado, welcome to the platform, Mr. Joseph Green. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to Amani and Clara for allowing me to present and talk about the work that we're doing over here in Austin. And so collectively, we're all together, all as one. And really the goal is to make sure that we are empowering the people in the community, helping them with employment services and a lot of other things that we're going to discuss today. And so my name is Joseph Green, as Amani said. I'm the Director of Workforce and Job Development here at Westside Health Authority. I've been employed here since 2018. And so I've worked in a lot of different facets, a lot of different departments over the years. And so workforce and reentry is very close and dear to me, as it was one of the first positions that I had when I started here. But before I get into the work that we're doing, I have to give you a little bit of what Westside Health Authority is and who are we. So next slide, please. And this is our agenda, kind of who we are. We're going to go over employment services. We're going to go over requirements and process for those services. We're also going to talk about workforce development, and we're going to talk about reentry programs and services. We'll also get a little bit into the Aspire Center, and then we'll talk about partnerships and development programs that we are in tune with, are connected with. And then we'll have questions after, because we love to connect with people. We love to connect with like-minded organizations. And the more that we can grow, the more resources and availability we have for the people that we serve. Next slide, please. Next slide. So who are we? Who is Westside Health Authority? We're a non-for-profit organization, and we're based on the west side of Chicago. Our founder was Miss Jackie Reed, and she founded WHA in 1988. Our mission is to use the capacity of community residents to improve the health and well-being of the community. Now, here at WHA, that's our acronym, when we talk about health, we're talking about community, we're talking about workforce, we're talking about empowering people in the community in a different and a holistic approach. And so all of these different things that we do go into the work of being able to assist people with all different types of things. And so we'll go to the next slide. Employment services. And so our employment services are for adults 18 and older. We do have youth programs, but this conversation here is primarily about reentry and workforce development. And so returning citizens, seniors, and our veterans are all welcome to come in, right? Our case managers provide in-house supportive services. We help with IDs. We also can help with birth certificates. Now, there are some stipulations to that, but we are helping people that are getting out of prison with those documents once they come home. The great thing about the Illinois Department of Corrections is that over the years, since I started in 2018, is that they have been able to rectify some of those issues. And so now when men and women are coming home from prison, they're obtaining those documents a lot faster, or they're leaving with those documents on their person. And so that's a great way for a person that's coming home to start off and to get themselves on the right track. All right. We have our new job readiness training. Oh, I skipped one. We do assessments, right? So we assess short-term goals, and then we also assess long-term goals. Those are called our individual employment plans that our job coaches do. And so we have a new job readiness training program as well, where we assess employment work history. We teach about how to send emails, right? How to show up on Zoom, how to show up work etiquette, and then just how to present yourself for the next step. And so for some people that we serve, job readiness is going to be essential because we don't want to set them up for failure. We want to set them up to go to the next steps and the next levels. And so here at WHA, we have a small staff, but we have a strong, large staff. And that means large with our hearts and how we empower people in the community. And we love on our clients. We encourage them every single day that we meet with them, right? And so that initial process may start off slow, but as they start to build a rapport with the people that we serve, it starts to grow and it starts to grow. And so a lot of people, especially those returning men and women, they may have this mindset that nobody is looking out for them, that nobody cares. And so we start to peel back the layers, right? We start to peel back the layers as we start to get them to open up, share. And that primarily comes from our initial contact, whether it's in the prison, right? Or when they're calling in and asking for our information. And so we'll get to all of that information a little bit later. Encouragement towards planning development as further the education. We also like for a lot of our individuals, if they're interested, to further their education. We have a partnership with one of our Austin residents, Westside Rising, as well as there's another organization. It's slipping my mind right now. It's called Westside. They're on Madison. I just can't get the last part. And so they do GED training because they partnership with Malcolm X College. And I can get that information to Imani after the call. It's just slipping my mind right now. Next slide. Sorry. Requirements and process. You must be a resident of the city of Chicago. That is imperative because of the requirements that we have for being able to give these services. All of our services are free of charge. We just ask that you come in, you show up, and that you are activated and ready to work, right? And what does that mean, right? When we say ready to work, that means that you have all of the requirements and documentation that's needed, and that you're really ready to come in and do what's needed. And so having a physical Illinois issue ID or driver's license is essential. You must have that document. You must have a physical copy of your social security card. If you don't have that document, we can point you in the right direction so that you can get that, right? If you're looking for any type of employment, you're going to need your ID, driver's license, or you're going to need your social security card. These documents are essential, okay? Part of the process is that we ask that individuals can come in any day, Monday through Friday. Our initial orientation starts at 9, but we ask for participants to be in at 8:45 a.m. That means that you're getting yourself ready, right? As you start to go out into the job world and you're looking for an employer, or you're looking for employment, let's say you have an interview, you want to come in about 15 to 20 minutes early, right? You want to make sure that your commute is straight, right? Whether you're on public transportation or if you're in a vehicle, but you want to make sure you give yourself enough time so that you can prepare yourself for that interview. And so we started from the start coming in. We want you to come in a certain time. We want you to come in a certain way. First initial couple visits is not going to work that way, but we will work with the individuals that come into our office. All right. You must be able to stay for 3 hours, right? You may finish a lot earlier than that, but you must be able to stay for 3 hours to get through the whole entire orientation process. And so the orientation process starts when you walk in through the door. We have an intake specialist that will go through the whole process of filling out the documents and walking through each step. Um, we also ask to have patience. A lot of people that are coming home, they want instant things to happen right away, and life just does not work that way. So we ask that you have patience when you come through the door. Complete all intake forms and orientation paperwork, which will be given to you, and you'll be walked through those steps. Complete a TABE test. This is reading, math, and science. This is standardized for us to be able to see where you're at academically. Then we put you through also, which is not on this page, which is a job assessment, okay? And it asks some questions about your previous employment. It asks questions about who what type of work are you interested in? And so this allows us to get to know you on a more intimate basis. And this is given by the job coaches, by the way. And so this is a one-on-one that they're allowed to do so that they can make that connection. We don't want to say, hey, we got this job. Do you want it? We want to know what you're interested in. What is your interest? What do you want to do? And then let's map out some steps so that we can get there, if that makes sense to everybody on the call. Once they finish the TABE test, then they're introduced to their case manager, and then that case manager is going to ask them those important questions. What resources do they need? What are some issues that are going on? Whether you have a background or don't have a background, the process, the documents, everything is all the same. All right. And then once a person is finished with their job coach, they'll be given a intake form. It's called a resume template. And so that resume template is really self-explanatory. You fill that out, and then once you come back, you'll get an appointment from the intake specialist on your date and time that you choose, right? So it's not like we say, hey, we want you to come back on Tuesday. We ask you what is a good time for you to come back and what time works for you. And so based on the availability of our career coaches, then we will align you with the one that best fits. All right, next slide. We'll meet you where you're at, but we will challenge you to grow. That's a very strong statement. Like, next slide. And what that means is that everybody is, when they come, like they say at church, the doors of the church is open, right? And everybody is welcome. And so Westside Health Authority is not a church door, but the doors are open, and we want to meet you where you're at, but we will challenge you to grow. And that comes from the first initial visit, the first initial call. We want to see you better than where you're at, right? We want to see you evolve. We want to see you grow. And that takes time, right? But that takes a little bit of determination on the person that is wanting to do the work or wanting to have that change. And so right now I want to go into reentry and the Community Support Advisory Council. It is known as CSAC, CSAC West. So there are three different CSACs. There's a CSAC North, there's a CSAC South, and there's a CSAC West. And this partnership was designed maybe about 15, 16, 17 years ago with the Illinois Department of Corrections and the governor at the time, which was Rob Blagojevich. And so that partnership created the identity of grassroots organizations being able to serve individuals who are incarcerated in correctional facilities. And as I said, when I started in 2018, this was one of the first things that I would do. And so I would travel with my director at that time to Sheridan Correctional Facility. And we would go 3 times a month, and we would work with a group called Task. We would also work with West Care, and then we would also work with parole, with the Cook County sheriffs, right, and the parole board. And so we would all go in. We would go in, and we would talk about resources. You'd be on a prison deck with about 50, 60 men, and we talk about resources. We talk about expectations. We talk about responsibility. We talk about family reunification. We talk about those important things because reentry doesn't start when a person comes home. Reentry starts the first day that they go in. And so our job was to connect, to build a rapport. And just a quick story out of this, what I used to do was I would go and you'd have a whole deck of like 50, 60 guys, and you have some guys on this end that wouldn't be listening, and a couple guys on this end, but then you have about 40 guys in that middle that were just tapped in, they were just locked in. And so I started doing their resumes. I started bringing that template that I spoke about earlier into the prisons and having them fill it out. And when I came back a couple weeks later, I would take those actual templates and I would start to create their resumes with the misspelling, with the jobs, and not having all the jobs, and putting that together for them. And it would build a rapport with them where they knew pretty much that what I said I was going to do. And so that encouragement was not that they would come to Westside Health Authority, but that they would go somewhere. They would go anywhere where they can get some type of assistance. The goal is we would love for you to come to WHA. We would love for you to come to Westside Health Authority and allow us to work with you. But you may be coming home to the South Side. You may be coming home to the suburbs. And so as long as you get some type of connection, as long as you get some type of assistance, then that's a win. And so a lot of men, when they got home, they would be being paroled out of the city of Chicago, but I would do my due diligence, or I would have someone work with me so that I can get them those connections. And so part of what we do, we don't have all the answers at WHA. We don't have all of the things that's needed, but we do have reliable partners, and we have resources that we can connect, which are called referrals. And so my next thing would say the travel to supportive service groups. We would go to halfway houses, reentry programs, and we would work with people like Above and Beyond, Gateway Foundation, Bobby E. Wright, Habilitative Systems, all of these different organizations throughout the West Side who have individuals in need who may need some of our services, right? I talked about the task. The soup kitchen is very vital. And it was one of the main reasons why I wanted to work at Westside Health Authority, because when I did my interview, they put me to work that same day. And so when I was working, I actually had on a full suit, and I took my suit off and I rolled my sleeves up and ended up serving about 30 people. And so every Thursday, and we have a new location, which is going to be 5437 West Division. We serve from 2:30 to 4 p.m., sponsored by the Greater Chicago Food Depository, which we partner with, to serve hot meals every Thursday from 2:30 to 4. And so this program was designed and is called Overcomers Group because we are looking for our men and women to overcome. And we're also looking at people in the community to overcome. And so at that meeting, you'll not only get a hot meal, right? But you'll also receive resources. You'll receive information. And then you'll also, you know what I'm saying, get the word of God if that is what your interest is, right? And so every Thursday, 2:30 to 4 p.m., 5437 West Division, we will be serving. We also give out haircuts. Now, the haircuts are not every week for the same individual. They're every other week, so they're bi-weekly. But if you have an individual that needs to get a haircut for an interview, they need to get a haircut for some type of situation, then you will call our office, and then we will set up an appointment. We only have a limit of 6 per week, but we always have a ticket or two where somebody might show up or might not show up. And so we encourage people in our community, are those that are on the call who have participants that they work with, come get that hot meal, right? I'm not cooking anymore, right, per se, but our new reentry coordinator, Miss Maria Moon, does a great job in the kitchen. Next slide, please. Current and future employment and CSAC partners. So we have a partnership with the CTA Second Chance Program, Chicago Transit Authority. We just started taking new individuals. And so there is a number of criteria for that. And I can kind of send that information to you, but I'll talk about it right now. CTA Second Chance Program, you must have the ID, the Social Security card, the birth certificate, which I didn't talk about, but you have to have your birth certificate. You must Get your rap sheet, which you can obtain on 35th in Michigan at the CPD police station, Monday through Thursday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. So you have to go up there early. It's going to cost you $16, right? But once you get that and you do your fingerprints, you should get your CPD, right? Your Chicago Police Department rap sheet in the mail. All right. Anything with an assault on a police officer, discharge of a weapon, it may hinder you from being selected. And there's some other things in the background as well. And then I could send more information on that as we start to flesh everything out. But we are accepting applications. If you're interested, then you'll call the number at the end of this presentation to get more information. But I would prefer that you call me. We have over 100 plus people that we're screening. We've already screened about 40 so far, and we're looking to take at least 10 to 20 people each month because the CTA is hiring. And so if individuals meet the criteria, the main thing, no weed. And so if you're smoking weed, then you're automatically, it's not going to work. And it's not like, hey, I can go take a drink and I'll be clean today. Yes, marijuana is legal, but it's not legal at certain employers, right? So I digress on that because I can get into a tangent on that. So next is CACC program, which is our animal shelter program. This allows us to employ young men with violent backgrounds into the animal shelter program, and it allows them to get workforce development training on the spot. And so this program is designed for those individuals who have never had any type of employment, or maybe they've had employment and they failed at working a job or staying on a job for a long time. And so the process of this program is really walking them through the steps of getting up every day, working part-time, right? And we have some user stories that's coming up, so I'll share more about that later. Women's Employment Workforce Program and Malcolm X College. We also have partnerships with them as well. We don't have enough people of color taking advantage of these lobotomy and CNA and these medical programs that are available, and men, right? Not taking advantage of these programs. Individuals with no backgrounds are those who have backgrounds who may not be able to work in the medical field. There are some programs where you can get some of that stuff expunged, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Clean Turn, which is a clean service Chicago partnership program that we have. It's a janitorial reentry workforce, but they hire everybody. It's not just returning citizens. St. Paul Ministries, which is in the Bronzeville area. They have an apprenticeship training program that we're very proud to be partners with them. They just graduated a total of 8 individuals earlier last month. In their apprenticeship program, they're going to be in local unions now. And so we don't have enough of our people taking advantage of these types of workforce development programs that are free. And they ask for you to sacrifice one of the biggest things, and that's your time. That's your time. How do you sacrifice your time to get where you're trying to go? How do you sacrifice your time when you have to feed someone today? And so that's what we get with those short-term goals and then long-term goals. But our goal is to encourage you to take advantage of those hard skill trainings. We have partnerships with Amazon, Sam's Club, Walmart, really the same thing, FedEx as well. JARC, which is one of our anchor tenants. I'm pretty sure if they haven't spoke, they'll be speaking soon, and they'll talk about not only their welding program that's not going to be at the Aspire Center, but the CNC machine operator programs that will be at the Aspire Center. Greater Westtown has a forklift program for those with background or with that background. The Austin Chamber of Commerce has been very huge for us because it's allowed us to use smaller employers. A lot of times companies we've tried to go to the big companies, the big organizations, and there's a lot of green tape or red tape, right? They don't want to cut any corners. We found that it's been easier for us to connect with the businesses in the Austin community and then allow them to, you know what I'm saying, use our transitional job program as well as hire some of the people within the community. That's the way community is supposed to work, right? Um, United Here, which is a Chicago Hospitality Institute, I just went and visited last week. They have a great culinary program. Uh, and then with CSAC, we have some great partnerships, right? We have a strengthened relationship with our new director of the Illinois Department of Corrections, Ms. Latoya Hughes. We also have a new director of reentry for the city of Chicago, Mr. Director Joseph Mapp, who we just had a conversation with. And then Jennifer Perrick, the chief of programs, and then Linda Gaskin Rowe, who is the chief of parole. These are very essential individuals who work with the Illinois Department of Corrections, and being able to have a partnership as a grassroots organization is very essential because we're kind of the voice that is needed in the community to let them know what is going on and how we collectively as an organization with all of our other partners, we tackle our men and women who are coming home. Strengthen relationships with our 7th District Congressman, Danny K. Davis, our state rep, LaShawn K. Ford, our state rep, Camille Lilly, Alderman Chris Teleferro, Alderman Emma Mitz, and then Commissioner Tara Stamps. All of them are very essential in our process for workforce development and reentry services. Next slide. Some of the success stories, we had a Christmas with Dad celebration at Danville back in 2022. This allowed us, working with the Congressman Danny Davis, to actually go and take families to visit men that were locked up at Danville Correctional Facility. We had a huge event where men got to play with their kids, right? Men doing how many years or what have you, able to play with their children, interact with their families, have an actual dinner and sit together and eat together. Very impactful. Nothing like this has been done before, right? To that level, right? We've done our fatherhood in the neighborhood events at Sheridan Correctional Facility, but we've never done it the way we did it with the congressman at that Danville Correctional Facility. One of my clients, I wouldn't say client, one of my friends, right? He was a client. I met him at Sheridan Correctional Facility back in 2018. His name is Raphael Carter. And he is one of the recipients that when he got out back in 2019, he went through the process with us to be in the CTA Second Chance program. And so in January 13th of 2020, he finally got in, and he's still working there to this day. And so he started off, I didn't get into the job, right? The actual job that a person will do is actually they'll be cleaning the buses, or they may be cleaning the trains, and that means the outside and the inside of the buses and train. The position pays $16.67, if I'm not mistaken, and it is full time, but it is for a year. And so we asked the individuals that we work with, showing up on time, staying drug free, staying out of people's way, and just doing your job and coming to work will get you that success. And so Raphael Carter is part of that success because now he drives the trains, which is amazing to me. And there are plenty of other individuals that work at the CTA Second Chance program, men and women, who came through WHA's doors over the years and are still thriving at the Chicago Transit Authority. And so that's a blessing. Those are the stories that we need, and those are the stories that create the change that we're looking for in the community. Over 15 permanent employees who currently work at the CTA transitioned from that CACC dog animal shelter program, right? So some of those individuals that started with the gun violence in the background started in that program and ended up transitioning to CTA and now thrive and work in different positions. And now currently at the dog kennel program, right, the animal shelter program, we got 5 employees who are now union employees, and I'm making $28.50 an hour with full benefits. So that's just a blessing, right? That's just a blessing. Next slide. These are some of the pictures from the Christmas with Dads. As you can see, Congressman Davis to the far left. We also partner with the group out of Texas, Wandale Browning. If you can Google her, look her up. She does fantastic work. Her story was pretty much both of her parents were incarcerated, and she didn't. There was no way for her to communicate with them, and so now she helps kids communicate with their parents every single day. It's a great story. And then on the far right, you can see us having a panel, right? We didn't just eat and listen to music and all that. We really talked about accountability. We talked about responsibility, and we talked about what are you going to do when you get home. Next slide, please. This is another event that we had at Black History Month. Shout out to President Sanders of Malcolm X with the partnership with the Illinois Department of Corrections, along with all the grassroots organizations. We were able to host a Black History Month and touch base with every single correctional facility in the state of Illinois. And if you look at the middle picture, you'll see all of those different screens up at the top. Those are facilities all across the state of Illinois. Very impactful event. Next slide, please. Force Development, Community Violence Intervention, SC2. And then if you have questions about reentry, I don't know if you want me to stop and answer them, or do I keep going, Imani?
You can keep going, and we'll take questions at the end.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So workforce development, this is part of our, this is an Austin collaborative. Our hub, our central hub is the Institute for Nonviolence, INVC. And so Austin coming together, Build Chicago, Hope CDC, Heartland Human Care, Together Chicago, Jehovah Jerry. I can't pronounce that last part, forgive me. What About Us? And then, of course, us, WHA, we're all partners in this SC2. And so SC2 stands for Safer Chicago. And what this program has aligned to do is reach out to those individuals who are currently not incarcerated, but are out there in the community, maybe causing violence, maybe doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. We're bringing them in, right? We're bringing them into our facilities. We're connecting with them. And so we have outreach teams from Build Chicago, Together Chicago, and INVC. And they are working with individuals in certain areas in Austin, bringing them in and helping with them, right? What's going on mentally? What's going on physically? What resources do you need? And so our outreach teams are helping them with food, they're helping them with clothing, they're helping them with resources. And then once an individual is ready for the next step, which is to change their mindset and start looking for employment, then they're working with us and our other partners for workforce development. And so our SC2 team is small, but it's a very essential team because we're very hands-on. We're currently serving 17 individuals, 7 physically at our office, and then another 10 that we're meeting with at the Institute for Nonviolence every week. And we are putting them through a 6-week workforce development curriculum. And so some of the things I talked about how do you show up, it's a lot different for this program. This program is more tapped into who you are as an individual and how to develop a growth mindset, how to change the people that you're around. And it's not going to happen overnight. Our end goal is that individuals either get in some type of a hard skill program where they can graduate from that program and then start to look at career wise, right? Or if they are not interested in work and they want to go back to the street, which is a negative, right? Then we have an option of them doing some volunteer services in the community as well. Our goal is to stop violence in the community, but our goal is also to change the perspective of the men and women that we serve and to put them in a position to be victorious with a growth mindset. And when a person finds their purpose, it takes them to the next level of life. And we want to have citizens, not returning citizens. Next slide. Fire Center. We are coming May of 2025. WHA is coming. We'll probably be in the building sometime next month in April, but we will start working and we will start serving pretty soon. And so that innovation and that whole dynamic of us working together, creating that wraparound services that are needed is very essential. Next slide. These are some of our team that will be moving over. But our anchor tenants are Austin Coming Together, BMO Harris Bank, Jane Addams Resource Corporation, also known as JARC, and then, of course, yours truly, WHA, Westside Health Authority. And this is a mixture of some of our maintenance staff, workforce staff, reentry staff. It's just almost all of the staff. So we're really excited about the next steps of moving into the Aspire Center. One thing that has been kind of a negative is that we've all been in different offices. You see, I'm in an office. My other colleagues are in different offices and different spaces. And so this will allow us to come together collectively in one single space so that we can handle all business for the people that we serve. And so we're excited about the move. We're excited about the next steps. We got a lot of meet and greets coming up over the next couple of weeks, so I'm really excited about that. But this workforce for innovation is going to be very impactful because not only will individuals with backgrounds or without backgrounds be able to receive services, but anybody is welcome. And so we envision computer labs and a whole bunch of other things happening in 2025 and 2026 and going forward. Next slide. Some of our resources, Legal Aid Chicago, and this is very essential for those individuals who need SNAP benefits, who may be having trouble with landlords, or for our returning men and women who need to get some of those things expunged. These services are for free, and they will be at the Aspire Center coming up this spring. Right now, if a person needs help, let's say for expungement, they will have to do the same thing as somebody for CTA, which is to go down to 35th in Michigan and receive that rap sheet. They can only expunge cases that are from Chicago, and then there are certain cases that they cannot expunge, which most people should know about. If you need more information, there'll be a number at the end which you can call. Next on the list will be the Public Defender's Office. We have a partnership with them. They will also be in the Aspire Center as well. And so on the next one, our Freedom Defense Center of Austin, right now we're in the planning stages of that. And so this Freedom Defense Center is going to tackle those other cases. People who are on cases right now, people who may need to go to court or need some legal assistance. We're holding the Public Defender's Office accountable, right? And so the partnership that we have currently is very strong because we're asking the right questions. In this far left corner of this picture is members of not only Westside Health Authority, but also members of the planning circle. And so we also have what's called inside planning circles. So we're going into Cook County Jail. We just went in last Friday. We had our first planning circle meeting. The ladies, women as well. And so we are coming up with logo ideas. We're writing our decree. We're creating everything from scratch. And so they will be on the second floor with Westside Health Authority, housing space with us, along with Legal Aid Chicago. Next, we have Working Credit Financial Literacy Program. This is a partnership that we have established around when COVID had first hit, and we have seen a lot of success in the program. For those individuals who don't know about credit, need to learn about credit, budgeting, those things, we have a couple of different We have a couple of different programs that we can connect people with, but working credit financial literacy program is actually one-on-one with a person, right? We have some other things with FDIC called Smart Money, which allows people to go online and work with their children. I work with as adults to learn about money, learn how money works, learn about credit, learn about buying properties, learn about these things that were never taught in school but are essential to our everyday life. And so as a person gets developed and they can go through the mock interviews and they can go through all of this other training, once they're ready and they start to get employment and they start to get paychecks, we want to make sure that they have the right keys in mind of how they're going to save their money, how they're going to work towards a better living situation and a vehicle if those things are already in their assets. So we want to empower our people with this information and with these partnerships. The next one is the Greater Chicago Food Depository. As I spoke about them earlier, we get food from them to be able to serve in our soup kitchen. We also have clothing referrals, furniture bank referrals. These referrals are you must be eligible. And so as if a person comes into our office and they are coming in for those services, then they will talk to a case manager or they'll talk to the receptionist to kind of get more idea of what the requirements are. Crisis counseling referrals as well, because we don't have these services in house. And so we have to use our partners and make those referrals. A referral for us is a lot different. It's not like we just take a piece of paper and we say, hey, go over here and they're going to take care of you. Usually, and I am speaking for the team, our referrals are very, hey, I'm going to call Amani over at Austin Coming Together, and I'm gonna connect you with him. I want you to be over there at this time, and I want you to show up, and I want to know what happened. That's the type of referral process that we had to have, and we're all busy, and so it doesn't always happen the way that we want it to happen. But that referral process from WHA is gonna go exactly like that. Mental health referrals, substance abuse referrals that I talked about before, Bobby E. Wright, mental health, above and beyond substance abuse. Geo Reentry is another program that helps individuals, especially our returning men and women. And then there are a lot of other things as well. Next slide. UNA. Let me get it.
Great. A lot of important information. You guys are doing a lot. Where to
Could have
start?
went like 20 more minutes, but I said, you know what? Let me stay on task.
No, that was great. That was great. Let's get into the first question. But before we do that, again, don't hesitate to drop those questions that you have in the Q&A box on Zoom and in the live chat on Facebook if you're watching from there. We'll go ahead and get right into it. So I know some of these you kind of touched on before. But we'll go ahead and ask them anyway. So what geographic area do you serve?
We serve the city of Chicago. We are in the Austin area, but as long as your ID, you're from the city of Chicago, we serve everybody in the city of Chicago.
And how do you get referred to the program or refer someone to the programs that you all are offering?
Oh, say that again, because I'm trying to.
So how do you either get referred or refer someone to these programs that you're offering? Or like basically just get
So
connected to
if somebody wanted to refer them to us, then the next slide will probably have the information that they're looking for with the email, the direct number, yeah. And so that information will pretty much be there. But there's only one phone number on here, which is mine, and that's because we haven't moved into the Aspire Center yet. But I can put the number in the chat, which is, or I'll say it, 773-786-0226. That's 773-786-0226. That's the direct number to call with your questions.
Great. So for the programs, is there a rolling enrollment or cohorts, or is it
So it's
scheduled?
not cohort. It's actually as we get people. So if we did that, we'll be having people waiting. We don't want anybody to have to wait. For CTA, we do have a job readiness training that we're putting people in. And so collectively, let's say if you were to come on Monday and Clara was to come on Wednesday, then on that next Monday, you all would come to the job readiness training and then walk through those steps. And so it'll be 3 days for 2 hours. And so within that time, we feel like that's enough time to for you to soak all that in. But that initial job readiness is based on the assessment that the job coaches does. And so if they feel that Clara is more sharp, she has more job experience, she won't have to go through that program, right? But let's just say if Amani, you were a little bit you're a job hopper, things like that, and we would want to put you through that little job readiness training to just make sure that you're prepared for what you're embarking on with the CTA. And so that also is not only for CTA, but for individuals that we feel needed. And so we just do it on a weekly basis. And so if you come in, if it's one person, then we teach one person, right? Because we don't want people to wait. They've already waited enough time. So if that, I hope that answers your question.
No, that was great. And while I heard you mention the CTA program while we're on it, I know early in the presentation you said that you are accepting enrollment for the CTA program. Now, could you kind of touch on that before we get off?
Absolutely. So the CTA Second Chance program, there's a number of documents that you're going to need. You'll need the ID. You must be a resident of Chicago, right? You can't work for the CTA or any Chicago department if you're not a resident of the city of Chicago. And so you must have on your ID that address needs to be a Chicago, Illinois residence. And you must be living there, right? You must have the physical copy of your birth certificate as well as your social security card. And then that rap sheet is essential. You'll find that most people hit all of the benchmarks, but when I ask them if they smoking weed, that's when people get triggered. Or they have something with police or something where it's an unlawful discharge of a weapon. And so, unfortunately, right now, we're not accepting those individuals. But that doesn't mean that we're turning you away because you didn't make it. For the past 6 years, there's been plenty of people that I've spoken to over the years before the CTA chance program, and they just didn't have everything. They didn't meet the requirements, and so we don't want people to get discouraged because of that. We have other things that we can connect you with, but a lot of times people get so focused and locked in on one thing, they forget that there are other things that are available. And so, for anybody that's on the call, or if you're talking to someone and they're not eligible, um, don't let them get discouraged because a lot of times people, their whole heart go down when they find out they're not eligible. But there are other things, what's meant for you is meant for you. So,
That's right. Let's see. So we got some Aspire Center questions. Uh, Someone wants to know, will the Aspire Center offer employment to the community, and what are the expected hours of operation?
The expected hours of operation are probably going to be the same as here, which is going to be 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. We are going to be hiring very soon for the Aspire Center. As far as positions within the workforce development program, we're doing that already internally. But we're really trying to see because we already have a set staff that's going to go over there. So we're trying to see what that next step is going to look like as far as when we start to get our workloads and we start to see how traffic goes. We know it's going to be pretty hectic the first couple months or what have you, and then we'll just go off that and announcing. If anybody is interested in employment, you'll find it on LinkedIn or Indeed for Westside Health Authority, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. But you can always reach out to me. Right now, some of the positions will be in maintenance, security, as well as I just know maintenance and security right now. But any of the positions, as far as for workforce development, we're in the process of doing maybe a couple of hires before we move in. So hope that answers the question.
Okay. And next question. So, as a person that's been navigating the West Side and particularly Austin for all these years, how do you think the Aspire Center will impact the Austin neighborhood?
I think it's going to be very impactful because number one, we all in one building, and nobody will understand the impact of that but the people that's working the job, right? And so having a workforce development hard skill program on the first floor with JARC is essential because now those CNC machine operators, man, they're making lucrative amounts of money, just huge amounts of money. And so the idea of having everything in one centralized location, yeah, it's beautiful, and it's beautiful on the outside and the inside. But the work that we're gonna do as workforce development, um, it's gonna be extraordinary. And so I'm excited about the fact that we're all gonna be housed in the same building. And then the benefit to the community is gonna be that um, the opportunities, the resources, and just, you know what I'm saying, taking them to the next level. The main thing that I want to say is that Austin has always been looked at in one light. And over the last couple of years, we've been changing that light, right? And this is going to be a beacon. I'm not going to say a beacon of hope, but a beacon of light to allow individuals, whether you have a background or you don't have a background, the opportunity to work with us. And with the mayor's office coming online with employment and everything that's going on in the state of Illinois, this will allow us to be a central beacon on the west side of Chicago for employment services. So,
I definitely agree. I agree. Um, okay. And then when does the Freedom of Defense Center open? And will that be
around
inside the Aspire Center?
yes, it will. It will be right on with they are neighbors, so they'll be in the building along with Legal Aid Chicago. Um, as we do our opening, there'll probably be an opening for the Freedom Defense Center as well, and then we'll have more information as we start to get it together. Like I said, we're in the planning stages right now, but we actually have community groups, community people from the community, whether they live in the community, been affected by the public defender's office, or they just want to be active in the community. These are community members that are helping along with the public defender's office, Westside Health Authority, and Partners for Justice, who are our New York partners for the funding, to come together to put this together. So they already have a Freedom Defense Center on the south side. Excuse me, they already have one on the south side, and this one being created on the west side is going to be very essential. So you'll have the expungement piece, but then you'll also have those Cook County cases and that help that's needed, but then also the resources for the family, resources for that individual that's locked up or that might be locked up, and then awareness so people don't have to go through committing a crime or getting locked up or anything like that. And there'll be a lot more coming up as well. So
No, thank you. I know you said you guys are still in the planning process. So if you can, could you speak to some of those individuals that may already be behind bars or incarcerated? Will these services still apply to them if they've been convicted already or just open
absolutely,
cases?
absolutely. Now, anybody that's in Cook County Jail, they fighting the case, right? So that anybody, most people that's at, and that's one thing that I learned, is people in Cook County Jail that's doing 4, 5 years fighting a case, which is ridiculous, right?
Mhm.
And contrary to what people believe, the county is worse than the penitentiary in a lot of ways, right? If you've ever been in the Cook County, just walking through Cook County Jail, seeing them all housed together and being in there for all those years, it can affect you. But surprisingly, the men that we met at our meeting, they write memoirs and all type of books and everything, and really understanding of the process, and helping us really bridge that gap between the public defender's office and people who are incarcerated, are people who have been affected by the public defender's office. So,
Thank you for that. Next question. So, if people are familiar with the work that you all do, they know that you all have different locations throughout Austin that help serve people in such a large neighborhood. Just wondering, will those locations still function as they are, or will everybody be inside the Aspire Center?
no. So the Good Neighbor campaign will still be on Division and on Madison Avenue. They have a new office in Garfield Park, and so the our Youth Innovation Center will remain on Division as well. But anything dealing with employment, workforce development, reentry services will all be housed at the Aspire Center. And so, like I said, if you've ever been on Division, we have one, two, three, we had three different buildings that we were doing all of our work out of. And so you had across the street, you had the case managers. On the other side of the street, you had the job coaches. Upstairs, you have Legal Aid Chicago. Now we'll all be on one centralized location and on one centralized floor, and it's gonna be a plus. So those buildings will still be there, but everything with workforce development and reentry will all be housed in one building.
Okay, and then we got some re-entry questions. You mentioned a young lady that has an organization down in Texas. Someone wants to know what was her name
Let's
and the
go
name
back
of the
to this.
organization.
Let's go back to the slide if we can. I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I remember the name of her organization offhand. But if you look her up, you'll definitely find her. She's been on Good Morning America and everything. Keep going. One more. There she is. Wandell, Wandjell Browning. Haven't spoken to her in a while. I think, with the way we were moving, it was a perfect end to the end of the year for us, for everybody. So, but if you can write her name down, and look her up, you definitely will find her. She's doing great. Oh, Freedom Child Foundation. I have it written right there in my PowerPoint. I apologize. So, it's the Freedom Child Foundation, and they do great work. She's doing great work. Next question.
Okay, another question, and it's another re-entry question. What percentage of Westsiders coming home do you all serve?
We serve, so every single month, you have a number of individuals that are coming home. With our partnership with the Illinois Department of Corrections, we only go to Sheridan Correctional Facility, but once a month, we actually go to Task, which is down on Oakley and near Western. And so every month, every individual, no matter where they parole to, if they're coming back to the west side of Chicago, then they're going to meet there at the end of the month. And so different service providers, including us, we're there. But most of the time, when we go there, we already know the individuals because we've already built a relationship with them at Sheridan Correctional Facility. But you'll get individuals that are coming from all over. But usually when they're going through their transition and coming out, we're going to see those individuals go to Sheridan first. Like a person can be at Danville or they could be at Stateville, and then they'll go to Sheridan for the rest of their time. And then as they come out of Sheridan, then they come home to the west side. And so we see every percentage, but it's not just us. Safer Foundation, habilitative systems, anybody that's doing anything with reentry work, um, they have the ability to work with any participant that's coming to task. And so, we have a kind of like a leg up because we've built a rapport with them through our process, if that makes sense.
And do you all offer any mental health or substance abuse services?
Kind of breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Do you all offer any mental health or substance abuse services?
I heard you, but your mic is eating, is biting a little bit. Um, we do not offer any of those services, but we have out referrals for those services. And so for substance abuse, as I said, above and beyond, geo reentry, for mental health, we have Sankofa as well as Bobby E. Wright. And so those programs, we have partnerships with them so that we can send those referrals.
Yep. And if anybody are looking to get connected to those services, you can feel free to reach out to us at the Community Hub as well, and we'll do our best to help connect you.
And again, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just letting the audience know that they can also reach out to us, and we can make those connections to those different services that they may need as well.
Yeah, go to the last slide. I'm sorry. One more. Come on. No, the other way. Yes. Well, like I said, if you need to get in contact with me, my email is jgreen@healthauthority.org, or you can call me on my work cell, 773-241-1115. That's 773-241-1115. If I don't answer the phone, you can shoot me a text, but I will call you back. Okay. And then as we get more information about phone numbers and everything for the Aspire Center, then we'll be sure to share that information with everybody.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let's see. We have time for one more question.
Okay.
And, let's see. What will there be jobs for seniors, and will you have part-time employment available?
We always have jobs for seniors. Um, we like to connect them with our Good Neighbor campaign, but we work with them as well. So our Good Neighbor campaign is also helping seniors with employment as well. We like to get them not tech savvy, but able to work with technology as well, which is going to be very essential for the rest of this year and going forward. We'll also have an online version of how we receive clients' information. And so for those individuals who are more tech savvy, some people will be able to fill that stuff out online once we get that up and running, which will be before this spring hits. So we'll have that component as well, and then you'll get emails letting you know when to come back and everything. So
No, that was great. That was great. Thank you for that presentation.
yes,
Uh,
sir. I
a lot of information, a lot of good information that I think would definitely be useful. Um,
appreciate it.
and like we mentioned earlier, the hub is here to connect you to resources. Even if certain ones aren't the right fit for you, we'll do our best to walk you through that process. Uh, Similar to what Joseph was saying earlier, and as working in part of the hub, you do work directly with participants. So please feel free to reach out, and we'll connect you to those resources. Um, and then right now you could go ahead and register for our next Hub 101, which would be March 18th with Axe Good Friends at Oak Park Regional Housing Center. You can also share the registration form and Facebook event with your friends, family, and neighbors. So again, if you are interested in those services offered by WHA, please reach out. We'll be happy to connect you. Until next time, thank you, everybody.
We good? Hold up. nervous, but I'm good. I did good though, for real. Don't lie.